want to increase your income by over $30,000 this year. There's been studies on emotional intelligence or your emotional quotient. So you've heard of like your IQ, your intellectual quotient. This is your EQ, your emotional quotient. Like how emotionally mature are you? How emotionally stable are you? That talks about if you'll increase your emotional maturity, your emotional stability, you'll increase your income by over $30,000. Would you like a $30,000 raise? Let me share with you how to do it. There's a simple formula that you can follow that you can think about when you're ready to lose your stuff next time. You know what I'm saying? Like when you're ready, like you're frustrated, you're ticked off, because you know how it is being an entrepreneur, you know how it is building your business. There's like days you're like, I'm in, let's go, and then something happens, you're like, I'm out of here, you know, and then something happens again, you're like, I'm back, let's go. And then, you know, a customer quits and you're like, I quit with you, I'm out. And then, you know, you watch a training or a Zoom, someone speaks to your heart, you're like, I'm back, let's go, you know. It's just kind of this like emotional ride. Well, in math, the fastest way from point A to point B in math is what? It's a straight line. And so when you're doing this whole thing all the time, you may eventually get there, so congratulations, but it's exhausting, emotional, distressing, you know, like to just do this huge ride, like I'm in, I'm out, I'm in and out. And by the way, one of the problems with these low points is when you hit these low points in your business, this may have been when your best prospect was ready, but yet you are so emotionally distraught and you knocked yourself out of the game for the next 6 weeks, and that's when your prospect is ready for you. That's when we needed you on point that day to do that live video to like talk to the person. So you want to just shrink this to where you have less dramatic, crazy, ridiculous highs and way less dramatic, crazy lows. The two questions you want to always ask yourself as a leader is, how far do I fall? You know, what's the distance or the gap? How far do I fall? And then the next question is, how long am I staying down? So how far am I falling? How long am I staying down? These are the questions you want to ask yourself as a leader, because you can't afford to fall too far. You can't afford to stay down too long. You've got to bounce back up. You got to be resilient and make things happen. So here's the formula I want you to know and to write in your notes. E plus R equals O. E plus R equals O. Super simple. You can think about this when you're building your business. When you're on, like, you can feel yourself doing one of these, E plus R equals O. What does it mean? It means event plus response equals your outcome. Event plus response equals outcome. Now, a couple lessons you can pull from the E plus R equals O. First lesson you can pull is this. The E does not equal the O. My friends, the events of your life do not equal the outcome of your life. You are not a victim to events. You are a victor to your response to the events. You actually get to own the response. So you may not always control the events of your life. You can't always even control the outcomes, but you're always in control of your response. And you got to own that stuff. Jocko Willink and Leif Babin wrote a book called Extreme Ownership. Own your stuff. Get your house in order. Own your stuff emotionally. Own your stuff mentally. Own the way you're showing up in the world. Like, own your response to the world. Own your response to all the events that happen. You say, man, you don't understand how rough it's been for me. Listen, life is tough. You know, it comes at you fast. But you can own that, your response to all that stuff. You're the one in control. Viktor Frankl, when he was put in the Nazi concentration camps, in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, he calls it the gap. This is the gap. Your response is the gap. And he said that no matter what they did to him, the events that happened, they couldn't own his gap. They couldn't take from him his gap, which was his response. You own the response. So that's the first lesson. Second lesson is this. The R is not react. The R is respond. Great leaders don't react. Great leaders respond. So as you have these events in your life, and these events in your business, and as you're chasing your dreams and goals, you get to own that R, but you get to respond in the R, not react. This is when you get to take a deep breath, you get to calm yourself before you react, you get to own your response. Bruce Lee talked about it like a mind like water. You know, he said a mind like water, like if you were to take a rock and you would imagine a still pond in the middle of the beautiful mountains, so not a ripple in the pond, you take a rock and you throw it into the pond. The question is this: how does the water react? Or how does it respond to the rock? And the answer is totally appropriately for the size and the velocity of the rock. The water responds totally appropriately. That's you. You don't over-respond, you don't under-respond. You respond totally appropriately to the size and the velocity of the problem, the size and the velocity of the event happening in your life, right? So the R is not react. You don't react anymore. You don't fly off the handle. You respond appropriately in your life. Number 3, your R creates an E for others. Here's what you need to know, my friends. You influence people. You're a leader. You know, leadership is influence. You're influencing your children. You're influencing those that you work with. You're influencing people on your team. You're influencing people from your community, your neighborhood, your church. You're an influencer. And so the way that you're choosing to respond to the events of your life is creating an event for other people in their life. So my question to you is, what events are you creating? What events are you creating for those kids? What events are you creating with the people on your team? What events are you creating for your spouse? What events is your response creating for others? Is it a positive event for them, something they look back and cherish, or is it a negative event for them? You know, is it something they need to like process through themselves because of the way that you chose to respond? So your response is creating events for other people. HeartMath.org talks about how we're all interconnected. It basically says that people within 10 feet of you, you can feel the emotions they have in their heart. Have you ever walked by somebody and they walk by and you're thinking to yourself, man, they are having a bad day. They don't talk to you, they don't say anything, but you just feel that feeling. Or maybe you have one of those things where you walk by someone and you're like, I don't know what it's about you. I just like me best when I'm with you. You're awesome. You don't even talk to them. You don't even know them. But they just have a good energy. It's because you're affecting people. So right now, what type of response are you giving off to people? What kind of emotion are you creating for other people? What kind of events are you creating in their life because of the way you're choosing to show up in your life? So it's the E plus the R equals the O. You own those responses. I hope this video is helpful for you to be able to go to the next level of your emotional maturity, the next level of your emotional stability, and to think about it in a way that is where you have total ownership of this stuff. And it's stuff that you can actually say, you know what, I'm gonna improve at this, I'm gonna get better at this, I'm gonna have more straight line in my life versus kind of all over the map emotionally, and you can go make things happen.